Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin / cryptocurrency update for, we'll call it Monday, August the 10th, because it's Monday UK time. So before I jump into the content for this video, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and of course make sure you check the Patreon for a link where you can join the private group. It gives you access to more frequent updates and also helps to keep these videos coming because at this point the videos make less per month than one good trade. So let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's obviously had a pretty good weekend, or at least a pretty good evening, right? The weekend was kind of sideways chop, but I think in the last video that I shot maybe 2 days ago, I had said that be careful trying to short the market, that it didn't look topped out. And I'm going to talk about why I felt that way. Also going to show you things that you can watch for in the future to try to keep you out of trouble. So what we're going to do is, before we look at the bigger time frames, I'm actually going to look at a 4-hour chart and just show you how cliche this actually was. So this was the big move down from around 12 grand, had the sell off. Basically what this was profit taking. All right, so this wasn't like a collapse. So if you ever see something like this where the market pumps real hard and then you get this really big candle, usually that's people taking profits on their longs. All right, so this was profit taking, dropped about 1,500 bucks, scared a lot of people. But then what actually happened was it put in this beautiful double bottom, right? This W. And then just like we talked about double tops in the last video, double tops like to do kind of this number where they do this and then come back up and test this before more downside. Well, double bottoms work the same way. They like to do this and then come back down and test this before more upside. So in this case, what you actually saw was you saw the double bottom here. This was the neckline. It broke up through it, came back down and tested it, and then you got your bounce. And if you didn't enter over here, what you could have done is you could have just waited until it retested support down here in this RSI line, right? Right there was a perfect close on top of support. It also happened to close right above that 50 moving average, which lately seems to be fairly important on the 4-hour chart, and then it just moved right up off of it. So it was very cliche, right? So if you got in on this thing, you could have got an entry at 11 a.m. Central Time, August 9th, so less than 24 hours ago, and it pumped about 4.4%. So again, really good trade, and especially if you're trading with leverage. Let's just say that you're trading with 5x, right? It turns a 4% trade into 20%, right? Or actually closer to 22% before fees. So really good stuff. So if you're ever watching this and you're feeling, bearish, remember to watch for those double bottoms. And of course, if you're feeling bullish, make sure to watch those double tops. All right, because this was very cliche. And again, this was after the super cliche, movements that we had over on the CME, right? You probably know what I'm talking about if you saw the last couple of videos, but just in case you didn't, let me pull up the CME super quick. Not going to go over it in detail, but we had this double top, boom, 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 up for the retest, perfect place to short. You could have been short at 12 grand, and you could have rode that down to about 11.4, which was 5-6% from the close to the low. I'm not saying you would have got the whole move, that's unlikely, but 5.36%, right? And now we're moving back up. One thing to keep an eye on that's pretty interesting is we're sitting here putting these lower highs on our side but higher highs on price, and now we're getting this long running divergence, and typically that's a sign that the market's wanting to have some type of correction, so I would keep an eye on that. All right, so let's jump back over. That's the 4-hour chart. This is the 6-hour chart. Again, this is the line that I'm watching in the 6-hour chart. What we basically have is we have the beginning of a trend line right here, touch right there that kind of confirms it, and I'm waiting to see what happens when this comes up. Essentially, this is a series of lower highs while price is putting in a series of higher highs, meaning that it is a bearish divergence that's trying to continue to run. All right, so that's the bearish side of that chart. But the bullish side of this chart, and I'm going to show you on a daily chart instead, is this is trying to represent a, I got confused. I didn't know what this was down here. This is trying to represent an ascending, what I would call an ascending triangle, right? You've got basically this series of higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. And then depending on how you look at this, some people would say, well, this is the neckline right here. and they would say, hey, it's broke out, right? And that's possible. Volumes is still a little bit low, so I don't think so. Other people would say that this up here is actually the neckline of that ascending triangle, and of course that's worth watching, because if it can break through that on a daily and close above it, that's representing a very bullish move. What we typically do is measure the height of the triangle. It's about $1,600, and then the target would be $1,600 from the breakout, which will be up around 13.7, which if you're not, if your memory's short term and you're not thinking back, that would basically be retesting the high from back in June of 2019, right? Which would be a pretty cliche place for the market to turn around, okay, if it's going to turn around. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. On the 3-day chart, this looks, very, very bullish to me. It really does. And again, I'm not saying that I'm longing Bitcoin here, because I trade setups, right? I'm not chasing Bitcoin. I'm not trying to invest in Bitcoin at $11,000, $12,000, not in the slightest bit. But when you go back and look, this is sitting here basically consolidating in the overbought territory, which is very, very interesting to me. We didn't see anything like that really at any point in the last 4 or 5 years, right? You go back here to 2015, nothing like that. 2016, nothing like that. 17, same thing. 18, same thing. Maybe a little bit right through here in the fourth quarter of 2017. Maybe you could say that. But for the most part, this is very different. This is very new, right? So I still feel like we're playing out this bull pennant here, or bull flag, whatever you want to call it, where it moved up, had the falling wedge, and then it's moving up off of it. So if it does that ABC type of move, again, that gives it a target up around, I think it's around 15K if I remember right where it goes up, down, and then back up. So still a lot of bullish patterns being displayed on that chart. Okay, I'm still not ready to get super bearish in the shorter time frames. The other thing that's worth mentioning is I read in the news that apparently Trump did sign an executive order trying to extend the unemployment benefits. Instead of doing $600 a week, they're doing $400 federal. So that's pretty interesting to me, because again, depending on what state you live in, a lot of states are already paying $200 to $400 a week state. Now they're going to do $400 on top of it. So again, we're back in that situation where a lot of people are going to be getting paid more unemployment than what they made at their job to begin with, which means that, again, we're probably going to see, if everything gets pushed through and actually gets implemented, again, we're probably going to see a lot of people with extra money that might end up going into apps like Robinhood, where they're gambling on stocks and feeding into this whole FOMO craze that's going on right now. And if the stock market gets pushed higher, of course, I believe that crypto is going to ride the coattails of stocks and basically follow its lead. All right, so something to keep in mind. But if you are looking for the short, like I said, me personally, I'm waiting to see if we can get some, rejections off of this trend line on the 6-hour chart, and we'll see how it goes from there. All right. The other thing to keep in mind is these gaps like to fill. This one is filled, so it doesn't do you any good going forward except to learn from this, right? If you look at this, when this price dropped way back here, created this big candle with this big liquidity gap, and then what it did was it came up, sat there, and stopped right at the top of the gap. It was a good place to go short, and then price fell from around 11.9 all the way down to about 11.3 or 11.4. So again, 4 or 5% dump right there, which could have been a pretty good short position for somebody that was trading. All right. So that's kind of what I'm saying on Bitcoin, and I don't think I'm going to talk about gold and silver today, because I've been talking about those a lot. I think it's the reason the videos are going so much longer. What I do want to talk about, though, is this fear and greed index. So there's basically 2 fear and greed indexes that I personally watch, and I would highly recommend you watch these as well. Right now, crypto is sitting in the extreme greed, right? Yesterday was 79, today is 78. And unfortunately, this doesn't go back to 2017, which I would really like to have that data to see what 2017 looked like during a bull market. All we really have is 2018 and 2019 data, which is all bear market data. So it's really hard to say whether 78 is really extended, or is that just bear market extended. And in bear market, 78 was terrible, and it was like, man, this thing's going to dump any minute, right? You can see back here, for example, in February of 2018, that was about the point that the market completely collapsed from whatever it was to, I think it was down around like $6,000 or something. Let's look. So in February it got up to, or in January it got up to right around 17K, and then by early February, it was actually down to 5,800, right? Pretty crazy stuff. So I am watching this extreme greed, obviously the old cliche, be fearful when others are greedy, greedy when others are fearful. So, we're kind of getting to that point where the market's, silly. It's been silly for a while. Obviously, Bitcoin is up almost triple, or more than triple, in fact, from March. So, keep that in mind. And the other one that I would really keep an eye on is the Fear and Greed Index for CNN. It's money.cnn.com. And you can just Google it, Fear and Greed Index CNN. And this is actually the stock market Fear and Greed Index. And I want to show you this. This is pretty incredible. If you go down to the bottom of this page and look at the chart here, look at this. 2018 got down to around, I don't know if this is 0 down here. I'm assuming it is 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So it got down to, if I had to guesstimate, probably about a 5. And then boom, perfect place to be buying. This was late, or early. This was early 2018. So maybe it wasn't a perfect place. I was thinking it was, but let's double check just so that I'm not giving you bad info. And again, my VPN's hooked up and it makes this lag. I have no idea why. It drives me crazy. Let's go back. What did I just say? Early 2018? Early 2018. So that was in here. Yeah, so you could have been buying there, right? I guess it depends on really where you're buying at, but it did dump back here, moved up 15, 16%. I'm going to assume when that got down there, it's probably near the bottom of this tail, right? Again, had another big dump right toward the end of 2018, and I already know for sure that that was a good buying opportunity. That was on this candle here, right in December 2018, boom. And again, just measuring from the bottom to the top here, it moved up about 36% over the course of about a year. So again, a really good place to buy stocks back there. And even if you didn't want to buy stocks, think about it. What happened in, like this candle here was February of 2018. What happened in crypto in February 2018? It bottomed out around like what, $6,000, just under $6,000. So if you'd been buying there, you could have rode it up to about 12 grand, doubled your money, right? If you would have been buying Bitcoin in December of 2018, what would you have been buying? The bottom, right? December 2018 back here, it could have rode it up for a huge gain. Look at this next time. When did it come down the next time? Right here, came down even lower. That was probably like 2 or 3, right? And when was that? Oh, that was March of 2020. And what would have happened if you would have bought stocks in March of 2020? Well, they're up about 51% right now. What would have happened if you bought Bitcoin? Of course, you already know this, I'm sure. You would currently be up, if you bought and held, about 210% if you bought the exact bottom, which is highly unlikely, right? So I would not just watch the crypto fear and greed index. I would certainly keep an eye on this as well, because when this thing bottoms out and that extreme fear gets down there near 0, between 0 and 10, it's often a really good place for stocks to buy stocks. Again, that's not advice. I'm just saying anecdotal evidence suggests it's a good place to buy stocks, and anecdotal evidence also suggests that it's a good place to buy Bitcoin. All right. So yeah, I'm going to keep this video super short. But the other thing that I would watch on Bitcoin, and I just thought of this when I was showing you this chart, we are still technically in a downtrend. And I know some people are going to say, no, we're not. That's ridiculous. We're up. Bitcoin has tripled. And yes, on the smaller time frame, certainly in an uptrend, there's no arguing that. But on a macro level, we are still technically in a downtrend, right? We have not taken out this high back here. We have taken out this high, right? And we've taken out these highs, but look at what's going on in RSI. The reality is right now RSI is still showing lower highs, and in fact right now it's sitting right at resistance. So this is kind of like that final line in the sand for me personally. If it breaks through that, I think all bets are off, and it's going to be very difficult to try to be bearish on Bitcoin until we see some kind of catastrophe happen in the stock market, or some world event or something. And I wouldn't bet against it, right? I'm certainly, like I said, I'm not trying to position short this. I'm just back to my regular day trading stuff. Today was a nice day. Took a couple trades, a couple winning trades, right? So first trades I took in over a month, and I think I'm up about 1% on my account, not my HODL portfolio, but my actual trade account. So 1% for the day is certainly not too shabby at all. By the way, for those of you that don't know, in case that does sound low and you're like, oh, that's not very good. Yeah, it's huge. 1% per day, every single day compounded, ends up being about 37x per year. So 3,700% per year when you compound it. So if you can do 1% per day, you are one of the best traders in the world, right? And I'm not saying that I'm one of the best. I'm saying that I happen to make 1% today, this one day. Not that I make it every single day. That would be amazing if I did. But yeah, I would keep an eye on that. And also, I was just kind of looking at this chart, and hindsight's always 2020. And a lot of the stuff I did drop, and a lot of the stuff I did talk about in past videos. But it's really easy to get kind of in the mindset that TA doesn't work, especially if you have a bad run of luck or something. For example, like TA was really pointing to this being a leg down, a dead cat bounce, and then a further leg down, and then of course it really didn't happen, right? Could still be a dead cat bounce in the stock market, and this could still all fall apart. But as far as being a dead cat bounce in crypto, it's not really a dead cat bounce when it takes out its previous high back here. So crypto TA is not perfect. It's not 100%. It's not a crystal ball, but it's really, really good if you use it and leave your emotions at the door, right? And just as an example, so what I have drawn on this, these are actually Fibonacci extensions. If you draw it from the highest close of 2017 to the lowest close in 2018, and then you pull it up to the highest close in 2019, and right here, when this was drawn, you could have had a little bit of a roadmap of areas to watch. And again, if you go back and watch my past videos, a lot of these areas I was watching and I was talking about, but if you're newer to the channel, you never saw this stuff. So what happened? Dumped, found support right on the 23.6. Perfect, right? So if you were short through here, and I remember being on Twitter and being bearish and people knowing that I was super bearish, but this was the area where I was like, hey, watch out. This thing's got a bounce incoming, right? Now, obviously, I didn't know how high, and in fact, I actually lost money because the bounce took 4 weeks to happen. So I gave up on it and said, well, I guess I'm wrong, shorted it, and then got stopped out. But the reality is it found support right on that line. There was definitely, this was a reason to enter a trade. It was well respected. And if you missed that one, really, really easy short position right here. Look at this. And again, we got hindsight on our side. What was this? You're probably not seeing it right now with the candles unless you look at a lot of charts. You're probably looking at it going, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You'll see it if I put it on a line chart. See it? Double top, retested the neckline. More downside. See how cliche that was, right? So right there is a perfect entry for a short. If you'd have shorted there around 9,500, could have wrote it down around 6,400. Down here, it was finding rejection on this line. So in fact, if you were trying to short this line, you would have got stopped out in a particular trade. But again, you would have already been up huge from these two trades, right? Huge from longing here, huge from shorting here. When it got up here, it rejected there. So maybe you would have went short base on this and got stopped out again. So you'd be 2 for 2, but your 2 wins will be huge, your 2 losses will be small. And when it came crashing down in March, yes, it threw the tail down, but where did it close? It closed perfectly on top of the 38.2 back here. See it? So you could have entered there, and of course, if you entered there, you would have been entering around $5,300, and right now on that trade, you'd be up, if you were still in it, about 124%. So my point is this, if you're trying to swing trade, you can really zoom out and ignore a lot of the noise and do really well. Let's just add these up. Let's say that a person longed this down here and say they sold on the close of this candle. Okay, well that would have been ballpark $2,000 per Bitcoin they made. If they shorted here and maybe sold, or closed the position when it broke back above this line, okay, again, another say $2,000 per Bitcoin. Now they're up $4,000 per Bitcoin on 2 trades, right? So, and let's just say they lost money here. Say they lost $500 per Bitcoin. Okay, so they're up 3,500, right? Say they lost another 500 here per Bitcoin. Okay, so now they're up $3,000 per Bitcoin. But say they longed here, right? So if they were up about $3,000 per Bitcoin, and you add this in, 6,600, around 9,500, $10,000 per Bitcoin on what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades, right? 5 trades up $10,000 per Bitcoin. It's kind of a big deal. Let's say that you're trading with 3 Bitcoin, right? Which is not huge, not small, but it's not huge. with leverage and everything, maybe 5x leverage, for example, some modest leverage, $6,000 trade budget, you could probably work something like that out. I'd have to go look at the numbers closer, so just realize that. But I mean, I know it's possible, but I'd have to look at the risk management closer. But again, even if it was only a three Bitcoin trade each time, 10 grand per trade, boom, that's 30 grand. If you're doing this on the side of a full-time job or as a hobby or whatever, 30 grand in 12 months on 5 trades without all the stress. Are you kidding me? Right? So, just make sure that you're looking at the big picture, make sure you are zooming out, and make sure that you're not getting too caught up in the minute movements, unless you're day trading. Because unless you're day trading, they don't really matter, right? If you're trying to position trade or swing trade on weekly time frames, just worry about the weekly chart. The rest of it is noise. Okay, and again, you can put the 200 moving average on there, and right down here, closing on top of that line, throwing a tail down through this long-term support, all of it together. Yeah, you could have longed that. And in fact, that's about where I went long. I don't know exactly where I longed it at back there. I'd have to go and look, but I do know I longed it down there. And then again, not patting myself on the back because I screwed the pooch versus riding all the way up. I did close some at 6,200, 6,400 in there, and then I did close some up around 8,500 as well. So certainly didn't, it wasn't a perfect trade by any stretch of the imagination. Really good entry, but got out too soon. So anyway, thought you guys might like to take a look at that so you can use it in the future. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, Fibonacci extensions, it's just a little tool over here in trading. You can click it, and as an example, I'm going to take these off. Let's say that I wanted to draw an extension. Let's say that I am going to assume this whole thing is an uptrend. What I could do is come down here to the bottom, draw it up to the highest close here, pull it down to the low close, and there you go. It gives me a target if I'm going close to close. It gives me a target up around 13.7, which, by the way, pure coincidence. I didn't know this in advance, but that is right around that breakout target of that, what they're trying to paint as an ascending triangle, right? So, and it also lines up pretty darn close with this area back here. So worth watching, right? And right now you can see that it does look like this 11,905, the 78.6 right here. It does look like it's, presenting a bit of a resistance there. So if it fails to break above that, it might be worth watching what happens down here at 10.5. And holy cow, look at that. Again, didn't realize this before I shot the video, but look how perfectly that 10.5 level has been respected, that 61.8, right? So again, if it's an uptrend, that's the trend target is $13,691. All right, going to go ahead and wrap up there, guys. Please remember that I am just some guy sitting in a spare bedroom, so nothing in the video is financial advice. Nothing in the video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice from a licensed financial advisor, which I am not, before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, or precious metals. If you haven't already, please be sure and give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you leave me a comment. And again, make sure to check that description for a link for the Patron to help support the channel and to give you access to more frequent updates. This is James with Crypto Common Sense reminding you to please trade safe.